Hey folks, Studio here. So there is just so much esports news going on. I cannot stay awake. The excitement gets to me and I'm just like too much esports and I fall asleep and pass out. But the big news of today is that Aphromoo is no longer on TSM Evolution. I will talk about this at the end of the daily because I feel it is actually important enough to talk about. Because I mean, he's a pretty good player and Evolution's kind of hurting right now. But today's daily is going to be on Shaco. I hate Shaco. It is not very competitive because Shaco is not a competitive pick, but it's important to remember what makes him so good and so annoying and why he was broken for months and months and months and the worst character ever. And I'm A-okay with Riot just obliterating him and nuking him off the face of the world. But that is for the daily, which I will now hop into. So, when you're playing Shaco, what is your goal? What do you want to do? Do you want to go ahead and just like gank every lane? Do you want to try and farm up to a certain point in the game and then just go crazy with your ganks? Your goal should be ganks. Your goal is going to be ganks in the end. You have a bad mid game. The mid game on Shaco is horrible. Like compared to other junglers, Maokai for example, what does he have? A reliable root. What does someone like Nocturne have? A reliable engage, followed up with a fear and the spell shield to stay in. Like there's a lot of reliability in the junglers. Nunu has a speed buff, and his ultimate with Shaco has damage scaling, but it requires a lot of actual physical damage, so it doesn't really work reliably unless you're far ahead already. He has an initiate, yeah, the blink's okay, but it has a long cooldown, and it doesn't really work for chasing down a carry. It's a good skill, but like once you're in, that's all you do with it. You get in. You can't get a CC off because your fear is not reliable. There's a lot of things wrong with Shaco, and most junglers they just have better skills, and a lot of them don't require quite as much farm. That's actually a problem Shaco has, because most junglers you expect to get a decent amount of farm, but usually they're not number one. They're not going to be close to the AD carry or the mid laner, given most circumstances. Especially when like most mid laners eat up all the farm mid lane and wraiths and wolves. But what is your goal? What is your goal when you're Zix Lol right here, this guy, playing Shaco, wanting to do those Shaco things? So, for Zix, it's all about the gank early on. And he does this in a really cool way. I actually really enjoy how he goes for ganks. And it's because he does a lot of things that are completely oriented at this goal. Now, Shaco's someone who has a lot of variables that you can go for. So, just looking at his masteries, or not his masteries, but his summoners, he has Ghost. Normally you see either Flash or Exhaust. Flash is really good just to close a lot of distance and keep chasing. Exhaust is good to secure ganks. Ignite can also work on him just to make him that much better at killing people, especially if the lanes like a Karthus mid, for example, takes Exhaust. But his main goal is to go ahead and be defensive. So he's putting Jack in the Boxes here. Jack in the Boxes only last for 60 seconds. So these actually aren't going to last long enough to actually affect red buff. These are entirely defensive. These are just defensive boxes to make sure that he does not die. As you can see, they're fighting mid lane, and in the end, these boxes aren't really necessary because they are in the mid lane. So, it's not important that he does it now, but he did it before just to be safe. And I like this because what is one of the big problems with Shaco? He's dependent on these boxes for jungling, so if you're going to go ahead and jungle a Shaco, and the enemy team knows this, they can just try and interrupt you and stop you early. So normally there's like a very set pattern. You'll put a couple boxes here, a couple boxes here, maybe a box of golems. Different routes have different box placements. But this is just like, I don't care about the boxes. I very specifically just want red buff. So you don't need to go ahead and, I don't want to protect that. And he does something really cool here. He only smites Wraith. Now who's he up against for the enemy jungler? He's up against a Nunu. What does Nunu love to do? Counter jungle. So if Nunu tries to go ahead and steal Blue Wraith, he's safe. And of course you don't need your smite on something like red buff, because just watch the boxes, they're murdering it. Like just shooting it left and right. It's very effective. But he's level 2, he has Deceive, and this is going to be his focus. With his boot start with Deceive, all he really wants is kills. And I like this. I like this playstyle because it's effective, it's unique, and he's got a clear focus. So like here he catches Dynasty, just does a lot of damage, blows the flash, and now all of a sudden Malzahar who doesn't really amp up that early, now has a good chance of just killing Dynasty. Unfortunately, Malzahar does have to wait a little bit to land his little wall there, so the silence didn't go off, which would have secured the kill, by the way, had Morgana not flashed. But like you can tell the plan for Ziggs now. He wants to really just go early, try and get lots of kills. Like he sacrifices his own jungle just to make sure that while he's going for these ganks, the enemy jungler doesn't counter jungle him, and that's cool. That is not something I would recommend all the time, by the way. That's something you have to learn on your own. Do you want to go ahead and sacrifice your blue Wraith? If you're ever in a game, for example, where you don't have a jungler, what's a cool strategy if they do have a jungler? You don't want him killing all your jungle, so kill most of your Wraiths, leave like one little one open. Kill red buff and blue buff, and maybe you can kill all the creeps if you want. You can just leave one up if you want to make sure they don't really try and go for it ever. And like you control your own jungle just by sacrificing it. And this is what Ziggs did. Now unfortunately, Nunu did not take the bait. But Ziggs, he had a lot of time to gank. He's being, pretty effective about it. You'll notice really quickly, I just want to point this out, this is the second time he's done it. He teleported backwards. When he blinks, look where he blinks from. Shaco blinks tend to be noticeable in the bush. So he blinks from here, right outside the range of Morgana. If you're Morgana, you might be looking over here. So you would not see the Deceive Cloud where Shaco blinked in from. Unfortunately, Qualm is, pushing around Dynasty as is, so there's not really a gank opportunity. Shaco, though, he's at 7 CS, he's level 3. And this is because he didn't kill those little minions, he's sacrificing his jungle, like I said. And he focuses on the ganks. He does what he did before, where he doesn't actually initiate from far away. And just lets him go ahead, get the Lux Please, chase him down. And I believe the flash was actually down for Lux Please. Was it? I can check it. No, he just didn't think he could get away, which was actually a smart move from him. So Lux Please doesn't get away, they get a kill, and Ziggs starts the Shaco Snowball. This is what you aim for at Shaco. If you don't get ganks, you are falling behind. And that's the thing important to notice as Shaco. Other junglers, like I said, they have more reliable ways to get into a mid game. They have, good CC. Shaco, he has really high scaling. I mean, his Q will get to about 210% crit damage, which is really high. His ultimate, it's going to be 75% of his auto attack damage, so he does a lot with AD. It's just not reliable to get off. So he's really just got to go ahead and do well early. And he does this in a really cool way. So he's level 5. 5 minutes in the game, one of the highest levels in the game, actually the highest at the moment. And it was a bit of luck and got that gank off, and then he just took a bunch of CS right afterwards. Like, he plays greedy because he knows he has to. And he's in a position now where he can just go ahead, go back and buy, and he's now decent in the jungle because of his level. And he's going to have really effective ganks. He's also maxing out Deceive just for that really quick burst. Like, he doesn't want any of these fights to last too long. Now, unfortunately, like I said, he sacrificed his own jungle, but Nunu didn't take that bait. Nunu didn't try and counter jungle at all. He actually went for a gank himself and was successful. So, the fact that Wraith survived did not matter. It's important to note that those little 3 Wraiths, too, they don't provide a lot of experience. So that's why I like that decision. It's like, I'll take the bulk of the experience, like the 90% of it, you can leave the 10% for the enemy jungler. And he just keeps ganking, he doesn't stop. Hasn't gone back to base yet. 6 minutes in. Is he going to kill Lux Please? No. But he's trying to set up a flash being burned, something being used, so he can go ahead and get a kill in the next situation. Now, you'll notice this is a really short game. And that's just because Shaco games don't tend to last very long if he's successful. And as Shaco, you got to be creative. Like, look at that gank route. It's all about hiding that Deceive smoke. Does Lux Please expect this? No. Who would? Does it work? Maybe. Maybe? No. It doesn't. And that's the problem. Every time you're not successful at Shaco, that's a lot of time spent not jungling, a lot of time in preparation. And he's going to get to the jungle, and like I said, he's effective, but he's not going to be as good as Nunu. He's not going to be as good as Nocturne or Jax, or even Olaf. Just like all these characters who have really good jungling steroids, Jax will sweep it because of his passive. Shaco can't use his own passive to jungle. If boxes get aggro, you can get behind them. But in general, that backstab isn't going to apply. So he's not too effective as a jungler, even when he's doing okay. Like, he'll make it, but it won't be amazing. Now, like I said, Shaco scales really well with attack damage. From his Deceive, from Hallucinate, and 2 Shift Poison does have a bonus attack damage ratio. I believe it's actually 1-to-1, might be wrong about that. So he is a good character to get attack damage on. So he goes out with a Longsword, a Doran's Blade. This will most likely be a Brutalizer. Shaco build, I've seen them vary so much. I've seen some people go for on-hit builds, which did not work out too well because I believe the clone doesn't actually apply them anymore. I might be wrong about that. Shaco's clone, by the way, it's one of the most inconsistent abilities in the game because it's gone through so many changes. So I do believe on-hits don't work on it. I can't be for sure because it's been a while since I've seen it, and it just seems like that. It might be red buff no longer applies on it. That used to be a thing. It used to be a horrible, horrible thing where his clone would just murder you. But because he scales, like there's 2 builds I see. One is just going to be like a side push style build, or like a jungle focus build where you get like wriggles and eventually you just want to go ahead and burn down Baron really quickly. I've seen other builds where it's just different focuses. But Ziggs, he just goes for these ganks, and like he's not successful, which is scary, but he's also putting his lanes into a good position where they can be successful. Morgana flashes down. What if Malzahar catches her off guard with an ultimate? And of course, what I love about Ziggs is he doesn't give up. So he just goes ahead. He sees Malzahar, or like he coordinates with Malzahar. I actually want to look at that gank again because I didn't cover it very well. He constantly goes in from awkward angles where you don't expect him. Deceive only lasts for 3.5 seconds. So he really maximizes what he does as Shaco. He really goes for these odd, just unique places to approach from, and it works. Jack in the Box getting a kill. It works because players don't expect it, and that's kind of the problem with playing against Shaco. The real way you beat Shaco is through knowledge. Realize all the places he can gank from. So right there, we saw him gank from over here, just past, just like right here in this little, I guess, canyon, over into this brush. Like that. That was a pretty good gank. From top, we saw him come just from the brush. We saw him come from over here. He has angles he can approach from. He can approach from pretty much any ridge. I don't think anything is actually too big to block him. Like I'm pretty sure he can make from here to here. So that's gonna be the scary part about Shaco. So this video isn't just about playing as Shaco, it's also playing against Shaco. You realize he has one big goal: get kills. If he doesn't get kills, like I said, you're in a good position. So when he's trying to get kills, it means you have to play defensively until you see him on the mini-map. So Jax right here, he did not know where Shaco was. If Shaco had gone top, he probably could have gotten the kill out of it. Unfortunately, Rumble is not a good character to play against Jax. So it's also a bad lane being factored in there. So when you're playing against a Shaco, realize that, like as Morgana, you have to be ready for just any random little initiation, like running through the lane like that. Dynasty has to have his fingers over ulti non-stop. Had he been able to actually stop that Malzahar ultimate, for example, he would have just been able to walk away. But you need to have good reaction times. You need to be expecting the Shaco to be approaching from anywhere. A bad Shaco is easy to predict because he goes for the obvious routes everybody takes. He'll gank from here and only from here. He'll walk into the brush and you'll see the smoke cloud and be able just to walk away. Ziggs, what's he doing? He's just teleporting from far away so he can just walk up to people. In 3.5 seconds, he's using to the max. Like right there. Actually, I'm gonna go ahead and look at the vision of Nuna right there. But I love that. Okay. So you can't see Shaco, and if you're playing Nuna, you're gonna be looking like, oh, maybe over here. You might barely see it in the corner of your eyes, and that's what you expect. That's what Shaco is doing. He's trying to play out of the vision of his opponent, and it works. And this fight, it's just the effectiveness of Shaco. He uses his ultimate. The ultimate doesn't get stunned, and it's actually just enough DPS. So something cool you can do with Shaco is dodge some skills. You can't dodge Morgana's ultimate, unfortunately, as you can see there. But using your ultimate as Morgana ultimates lets your ultimate clone not get CC'd, and that was actually just enough to save Calm in the end. Now, when Shaco reaches like the 10-minute mark, if you're not in the position of Ziggs, where you're like 3-0-1, you're probably going to have a low CS, and you're going to just be far behind. So if you reach that position, or you're playing against Shaco, reach that position, like breathe easy, because Shaco's probably going to be kind of worthless. You can still get okay ganks off. He still has a decent slow. But if you start playing as a team, guess what? Shaco's not going to do that much. He'll try and nuke you with a clone, which, by the way, does really high damage. 300 damage at level 1 without any AP. That's actually really good. Of course, you have to die next to somebody with it, but still, it's not bad. But it's hard. It was actually hard to find a Shaco game. And I actually wondered if I should find one where the game goes back and forth, but then I realized that doesn't really happen as Shaco. He's not a back and forth character. He's a maybe forth and back once, but usually when he falls behind, he's gone. But I don't know, it's weird just kind of like watching Zix. As you can see, he just keeps up the same thing. And these ganks have been getting less and less effective over time. Like here, finally, Shaco just can't even get close to Jax. How many times did he stay mid against Morgana with nothing happening? He could go bottom still. Like, they haven't actually caught up to him then. But even during this game, you can see these players learning the matchup, learning how to go ahead and play extra cautiously when they know Shaco's around. And now that he has red buff, they're playing super duper extra cautiously. Because with red buff, Shaco can destroy you. Because all of a sudden he has that 22% slow, plus the red buff slow, meaning if you're caught, you're dead. So I mean, like Dynasty, he's just using the Torment Assault and backing up. But Shaco did the damage he needed to do. Palm's level 10, Morgana's level 8. She can't CS too well, she's about 20 some behind, has no kills, and is not that effective. So this is the point in the game where if the enemies have learned what Shaco's done, if you have not done enough, you are kind of worthless. Now, something that happens here, I just love, like, he goes for, like, these random traps. He really plays mind games. Eventually, he does go for this gank down here. And it's kind of the same, it's almost the same thing as before, but because of the tower vision, he's using the blink as a surprise rather than to let himself walk in close to somebody. So he can't blink in and then walk through the tower, because it will see him. So now it's all about that caution. Also Dynasty, by the way. Great positioning. It wasn't actually spotted in that bush. But he sees the gank doesn't work out. He knows Jax just went back to buy. He wants to try and set up a dragon now, which Shaco is incredibly effective at, even though he went for a brutalizer build, so he doesn't have his razors. He's good at killing Baron, or dragon and Baron actually. There used to be entire team strategies based around Shaco killing Baron, which are no longer effective just because of how much the clone's been nerfed. But my god, those were the worst. Those were like, oh yeah, Shaco's gonna like 1.5 man Baron. By 1.5, I mean he uses clone as one tanks for like 5%. And then Baron's dead in about 8 seconds. But they nerfed the hell out of that. I'm so happy about that. Zix, though, like, he's just looking for the openings, and they're getting less and less common. And this is actually the scary part of Shaco. Shaco can be effective in lower elos for sure. If people don't learn, these are good players. These are about 2,000 some players. If people don't learn, he will keep getting kills. There's no reason for him to stop getting kills. So eventually it just kind of snowballs out of control. Shaco gets like a Triforce and a Warmogs and a Sunfire Cape, and it's like, well, you're screwed. In this case, it's not the same. He got a lot of kills. He got 3 kills, but he's not farming the jungle very well. The enemy's team is playing super defensively, like check out Dynasty, once again, just super safe. And Zix is now dependent on his team. And that's one of the scariest things in the game, because most people don't want to be dependent on their team, because the solo queue mentality is your team is horrible. Your team is horrible and hates you. But now the question really comes into play. Zix, did you do enough to back up your team? Well, you took blue buff, so you're... Hopefully Malzahar is far enough ahead where he didn't need blue buff. That was red buff, by the way, taking the blue buff. So, is he in a good position? Is his team going to win? Because did he do enough early on? You don't know. And that's what really makes Shaco scary. I think Shaco is actually one of the harder characters in the game to play. He's obnoxious to play against, but as you can see from the way Zix plays, he doesn't play in any sort of traditional way. And that's because, A, there isn't a traditional way to play Shaco. It's gank a lot, but gank a lot can mean a lot of things for Shaco. By the way, that box right there was entirely to absorb a binding. He didn't actually get the bait, but it would have been cool. Now, of course, Shaco has really good mobility. It's always important to remember that, so you can be a jerk in the jungle and do stuff like that. What a jerk! What a jerk! So, counter jungling as Shaco, it's effective if you're getting caught, and they don't have a decent follow-up. So if they have a flash, it's kind of risky, because if you get predicted, you might die. If they just have exhaust, well, guess what? Go over the walls. They can't catch you. Hooray! And unfortunately, I think this player was actually new to Nunu, so he just kind of gets destroyed. But that's actually the ideal situation you want to be as Shaco. You want to be setting these traps like that. Once your plans to start ganking fail, start doing other things. In this case, Ziggs started setting up in the jungle, going for a bit of counter jungling if possible, but really going for ganks if you can. It's a bit of luck, it's a bit of just kind of guessing, but for Shaco, it's working out. And there's no reason to really stick to one plan as Shaco. Never think you have to do one thing. Like, you do have to gank, but you don't have to do it in the same way. You can go for jungle ganks, you can go for lane ganks, you can go for over-the-wall ganks, you can go bot lane, you can go top lane, you can go mid lane. You can go to all the lanes, pressing Deceive, pressing your 2-shift poison, and getting kills. And as someone playing against Shaco, it's important to remember that. Like, everybody assumes when they play against Shaco, two things will happen, as top laners, for example. You assume he'll come in through here, or through here. But that's never necessarily the case. If you're purple side, he can try and counter jungle, and then come in from maybe the behind. As we saw before, Shaco tried to jump over this wall to go for a gank. So there's a lot of things you can do as Shaco. And it's important you A, remember he can do it, and B, remember you can do it. So if you're playing against a Shaco, be extra defensive, and then be more worldly. If you are playing Shaco, don't tunnel vision. Don't look at the standard portions of the map. Because what's a normal place to gank from as a jungler? You're just going through Tribush, you can go through here, you can go through the river, you can go for a lane gank. And then, like, if you blow flash, you can go over this wall. Like, you can do it, but it takes a lot of effort and resources. Don't do that. You don't need to. And I'm so sorry, Darwin. You got blown up so badly. Now, Shaco, I mean, their team's actually not that far ahead. It's only 3,000 gold, which is a decent amount, but not like they've lost the game terribly. However, they do have a big advantage in that Malzahar is really far ahead in experience. Like, they had the experience in Manage, and that one it's hard to place a number on. Like, you can go 1-to-1. Like, oh well, Malzahar's up by 2 levels. If you look down bottom, well, Taric is behind by 1. But Nunu's level 9, while Shaco's level 11. Like, it's harder to kind of go for it, and it doesn't really matter if some characters are farther ahead. Malzahar's a character that matters just because his Void Zone gets so much stronger. Actually, that's a nice little concept. Levels don't necessarily matter unless they gain something with it. So if you're up against a Wukong who's level 15 instead of level 14, you know what the difference between that Wukong is? The 14 and the 15? The level 14 Wukong has 1 less point in his Mimic. So who cares? Jax, or not Jax, but Shaco's gonna be kind of the same thing. What does he have, or does he not have? A higher level in Jack in the Box. Well, and it will actually put some more damage out, but it's not that important. Malzahar, a big deal, because Void Zone's a higher level, and Void Zone, or Null Zone's actually no, it's he hasn't had Null Zone yet. It's 14 where he starts leveling it up. He just has 1 point. Null Zone will be amazing the more points you put into it. Now Ziggs, he's been trying really hard, and he's doing okay. Unfortunately, he just cannot get the totally successful ganks off. But he's doing what he needs to do. He's varying up his strategy. His CS is abysmal, 68 CS. He's doing better than Nunu. But like, now he's dependent on his team. Why did that gank work? Because Malzahar set it up. And that's I'd say the scariest part about being a jungler, when you have to wait for your lane, the guy in there, the guy you're helping out, to set something up. But you have to have faith. If they do it successfully, go crazy, gank the dude, just be like murder. If they don't, I'm sorry. And Ziggs he hits bot lane for the first time. I love this gank, because it's just so ineffective. But he doesn't let up, and I like this. I like that he sustains his aggression, because now he has a clone out. The clone is going to be enough to kill Ezreal if you can get close to him. Can it? No, because Tristana kills him first. And like, he keeps up his aggression because he knows what he has to do. He knows that if he lets the enemy get away, he will not be useful. Like, this was just a crazy little fight. Just a lot of things went down. In the end, blue team kind of came in 1 by 1 by 1, and Ziggs was able to go ahead and just pick them off quite a bit, getting 2 kills for 1 kill, and Taric dying. I'm so sorry, but he just kind of walks away. And this is what Shaco specializes in. That's why people hate Shaco. That's bullshit. No one likes playing against that. No one likes playing against the guy who's just like, I'm gonna go through a wall and get away. But Ezreal, how could he have gotten away from that? Well, unfortunately, Ziggs played that well. He went straight for Ezreal. He got his slow off. Janna did knock him back, but because he did not get knocked straight back, the slow was enough for Shaco to keep up in range. Now, it's important to remember the times you can punish Shaco are when Deceive is down, and generally when his Hallucinate is on cooldown already used and you know who it is. Because if some things can go wrong if he hallucinates and you pick the wrong target, you know, your skill can go on cooldown. If it's a really close battle, he might kill you because you guessed wrong. Deceive, if you see Deceive is on cooldown, look at that cooldown. It's 10 seconds after he gets out of invisibility. So that's a 10-second window where you can kind of murder Shaco, and there's not a lot he can do. So had they gone out a little further, had Janna knocked back Shaco a little bit, he couldn't have followed up, and had he chased, he would have died. But unfortunately, that did not happen, and if that's the case, well, sorry, man. Notice a couple things, though. Shaco has move speed runes. Now this is once again something unique to the player. 403 move speed, that's not common with most Shaco builds. So he has move speed, he has utility mastery that provides move speed, and I believe he also has some move speed points to go ahead and move super fast. And I like this decision because what does Shaco really have for a gap closer once he's used his Deceive? He just has to keep auto attacking, keep chasing down, and usually Deceive is the initiator. So as you can see in that last fight, his high move speed let him just kind of walk up and stay in Deceive range. God, I love how dangerously he plays. And it's important to remember that like you have to account for the fact you won't be able to always use your initiate. As you can see, though, he's going for an aggressive build, has a DF sword. He just wants to kill people. He hides in corners, like he just looks for openings. Deceive's on cooldown. He's just waiting for a time where he can hop in and go for Ezreal. Unfortunately, that time really never approached itself. And they actually lose this fight. By lose this fight, I mean they win this fight because he goes into the last second when he sees an opening. So it's like, watch the Shaco. This fight, like, he's staying really far back. Like, he's not fighting at all. He's almost kind of worthless in a sense. He waits for Darwin to show up on Rumble, and all of a sudden there's a low HP Ezreal, low HP Janna just dies, then he pops in. It's almost like a kill steal, but Shaco's an assassin who doesn't do as much damage as Akali, as much damage as most other assassins, so you have to account for that. But in doing so, he let himself stay alive. Like, he just waited for the opportunity where he could actually get a kill. I think he might have waited a bit too long, but like there's a clear focus on his playstyle. And you don't have to play Shaco like that. You can go ahead, you can play Shaco a bit tankier, try and start off fights, like initiate, and like use your clone for damage and be kind of sustained damage. It may not be that effective, but Shaco is just not that effective. Like there's going to be different situations for Shaco every game. And the tricky part about Shaco isn't so much making one style work, being able to fluidly switch between them. If Ziggs, for example, had gone against a tankier team or a more defensive team, he would have been destroyed if they, played a bit more defensive for those early ganks. What if Morgana got an early Quicksilver Sash, so the ultimate from Qualm didn't kill her every time? He can no longer gank mid lane, and Malzahar would also be ineffective against Morgana, which is also terrifying. What if Jax had kept a ward on him so that Shaco could never deceive onto him without him having an escape? Like, then you would have to focus more on a Shaco that's going for like this sustained damage because the enemy team they're going to have too much survivability where your Infinity Edge isn't going to do enough. Which he does rush, by the way. He goes Longsword, Doran's Blade, Brutalizer, Infinity Edge. I like this build because he assumed he would be getting ahead. It's a risky build, but the risk paid off. Because now, just watch Ziggs, he goes in, use the Deceive, and just watch the Ezreal. Also, does he get the, I think he actually gets the, no, he just gets out of it. He just gets hit by it, actually. You can use the ultimate from Shaco to dodge that, but it's really hard to time because you kind of have to guess. So, he gets really low on HP without doing anything, but he's still a huge threat. He just needs one attack to kill someone. He can kill Jax, he can kill Ezreal, and he's about to do that. He's a cleanup crew. He's Katarina right now. Just watch the Shaco. 1, 2. He doesn't actually get to Janna. I made it sound like he was going to keep getting kills, but no. He gets 2 kills, and he does what he needs to do. Now, he did have to depend on his team quite a bit. That's scary. And this game could have gone on. There's a good chance they would have lost the game. But as Shaco, you got to kind of take these big ol' risks, this big scary decision where you're just like, I'm gonna put my butt on the line. I'm gonna give it to my team. I'm gonna try and do as much as I can early. Then mid game, it's all of them, and I'll try and back them up. Now, do I recommend doing this? Like I said, I don't know. It seems to work out sometimes. Other times it doesn't work out. That was a 2000 elo game, and Shaco did really well. Man, my hair. When I did my sleeping thing, my hair totally got decimated. That's okay. But like you gotta take your big chance, and that's scary because normally League of Legends is all about playing safe. As Shaco, you have rolled the dice. If you are not effective early on, you will lose the game almost 90% of the time because you will just kind of like become irrelevant. It'll just kind of fart away into the distance where it's just like, what's Shaco doing? Who cares? It's just like a purple cloud of orange fart smoke that doesn't do anything. That's what you are to most people in the mid game if you haven't done well. But I mean, hopefully that was a nice little Shaco breakdown. Let's talk about Aphromoo leaving Evolution. Why did he do it? Evolution wasn't trying hard enough. And that sounds kind of weird, but I think he already knew what he was going to do. Like there's no clear confirmation that he knew what was going to happen. But he joined MTW North America right after. They're looking for another player. They had been using Rayman top lane, but Balls is going to go top. Aphromoo will go bottom. So it'll work out. Balls is an amazing top laner. Why did he leave Evolution? They weren't practicing hard enough. They weren't practicing well enough. If you were watching the Curse House, they recently had a big argument where St. Vicious got really drunk, and it was really unpleasant, and then started yelling at Element, saying like they don't practice hard enough. Started calling out his team. That's not how you call out a team. You don't do it while drunk. You do it while sober because you come off as an ass if you're drunk, and St. Vicious knows this. But he had a lot of points. His team, are they practicing enough? Not really. Are they looking at replays? No. Are they criticizing themselves at the level they need to be to win the possible $2 million at the end of Season 2? No, they weren't. St. Vicious knew this. He told his team this. This was the same thing with Evolution. They were scrimming. So problems would happen. Problems always happen. You always have to get better. It wasn't an individual person. Excuse me? So, the things I was hearing was Salsa. I'm just going to use Salsa as an example. It's not just Salsa. It was everybody. And they would lose a scrim. And after the scrim, Salsa would just be like, log off. They would not talk about their mistakes. And the team as a whole would make excuses. Excuses only go so far. If you have an excuse and you're like, man, my internet cut out. I could not possibly connect to this game. There is no way I could have possibly done anything. Okay, that's fine. I'd get better internet. If you're like, man, I was kind of thinking of a girl, and then like I didn't notice Lee Sin come and gank me, and I died. Sorry, no, that's bull. Something else had to have happened. Like, why are you distracted from the game? Like, an excuse is a reason to go ahead and find out what went wrong and fix it. For a lot of people, for Evolution, excuses were just kind of like, this is what happened, and yeah. No, you got to go deeper into the problem. This isn't just Evolution that does it. Curse does this. Lots of teams do this, and you can see the difference. Solo mid, they practice a lot, and they criticize themselves. They criticize their mistakes. There's a lot of straight shooters on CLG and TSM. Like, they will just kind of tell you the truth, and that's really good. Like, the fact that they're willing to go ahead and just, like, not necessarily trash talk themselves, but just be like, well, here's why I suck. Boom, boom, boom. It makes the team better. I remember Hotshot GG. I think this was IEM Hanover. It might have been Kiev, but I think it was Hanover. He made a comment about, like, I'm the reason we lost the game. And it's because he did a split push his Cho'Gath and got punished by Nocturne and Ashe Ultimate, and that's why they lost the game, because he was out of position. And this was actually a big step for CLG. They've improved quite a bit since that tournament. But George, now George of the Jungle, going ahead and saying, I'm the reason my team lost, here's my mistake, that's really hard to do. That's something most people can't do. That's something you should be able to do. And it's something you don't see in, like, most streams. Most people just be like, oh, this Ezreal sucks. Oh, look at that Morgana missing her binding. It's like, no. They will make mistakes, but who cares about their mistakes? You fix your own. And the team's Evolution, MTW, they've improved quite a bit. You can tell they're going through their motions, criticizing themselves. You have to go through that. You have to do it, because it will make you a better player. And it's what Curse, I think, is starting to do. It's what Evolution needs to do. Unfortunately, Finals are a little more than a month away for North America. They do qualify, but now they're short in AD, and I mean, they got a lot of work to go through. I like Evolution. I hope they can recover from this. But then MTW, oh my god, they're scary now. But that is just my opinion on Aphromoo leaving TSM Evolution. They're a good team. They can recover from this. It's gonna suck though. Like there's no doubt about that. They're not in a good spot right now. But Aphromoo, he had the drive and his team didn't. I can respect that. They gotta pull themselves up. Evolution's actually, I mean, even when it was Epic Gaming, they had this problem before where people just didn't try that hard. And there's a reason there was such a big roster change, but I guess the motivation never really sank in. Anyhow, that's my little rant about Aphromoo leaving Evolution. Yeah. So, do I have any announcements right now? Nope, no announcements. We're still trying to fix out some kinks. Tell me what you actually thought about the quality of this video, actual video wise. I adjusted some settings. I think it looks decent, but I have to double check with you guys because it might just be my own perspective. But yeah, Studio saying adios, and yeah, I'll see you guys tomorrow.